Good morning. I'm going to read a bit of Psalm 139 this morning. And Psalm 139 is David talking to God. And David is blown away that God cares about him. So as I read this, I want to ask you a question, something to keep in your mind. When you have something that is very special, very precious to you, of great value, do you know a little bit about it? Or do you know a lot about it? Is it something that you just leave lying around all haphazard and forget where it is? Or do you always know where it is and keep it safe? Think about those thoughts as we read God's word. David says to the God of heaven, the one who created him, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You know my thoughts from afar. You know my going out, my lying down. You're familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand on me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me." David says, "Lord, this is just like blowing my mind that you know all of this about me. It's too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depths, you're there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast." God never loses track of where David is. If I say, "Surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me," even the darkness will not be dark to you, and the night will shine like the day, for the darkness is as light to you. God, when I can't see, you see. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. There's a well-known children's story called Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You'll remember it. A little girl goes tramping through the woods and performs her first breaking and entering as she breaks into the home of three bears who are off on a little walk. And she immediately pillages the refrigerator and decides that some of the porridge is too hot, some's too cold, but she finds some that's just right. That's not enough for her. She has to check out the living room. Well, this couch is too soft, that lazy boy's too hard, but I found this one that's just right. And then off to the bedroom. This bed is too hard, this bed is too soft, this one is just right. That principle of being just right has been actually carried over into astrophysics. And those astronomers call it the Goldilocks principle. Here's a picture of the Earth rotating around, orbiting around the sun. And the Earth orbits at just the right distance from the sun. They call that the Goldilocks zone or the habitable zone. See, within this zone, this perfect distance from the Earth to the sun, liquid water can exist, the key ingredient for life. If Earth was just a little too far away, it would be too cold and everything would freeze and there would be no life. If Earth was just a little closer to the sun, the atmosphere would burn off, the water would evaporate, and there would be no life. There's this sweet spot right in the middle that's ideal for life to thrive. We're in a series called American Creed. And Dave began 2 weeks ago by telling us what a creed is. A creed is a set of beliefs or aims which guide someone's actions. A creed is a set of beliefs or aims which guide someone's actions. We all have them, whether we realize it or not, certain beliefs that dictate what we do. And the Bible agrees in Proverbs 23:7 is, as a person thinks, so they are. What we believe changes what we do. And in this series, we're examining the creeds of our culture, the things that we believe, and we're examining them not to be these judgy Christians that wag our finger at culture. No, we don't want to do that. We want to examine them and ask questions like, is this belief true? Does this belief line up with what the Bible says and what Jesus teaches us? Now, this week, we're going to be looking at the creed, "You are enough." This particular creed is not hard to find on social media of any sort. It's not hard to find on the internet. In fact, if you Google "You are enough" and you put it in quotes so that it retains it as a statement, you'll get over 36 million hits. There are any number of authors who have written books about this creed. There are people on speaking tours, people writing songs. It's used in mental health treatment. And so if it's so widely used, we need to understand it because, as we're going to get into it, depending on how we use it, it can be very helpful, it can be also very dangerous to our thinking. So here's how I'd like to frame our discussion this morning. Not as a Goldilocks principle, in that we have to find just the right enoughness, not too much, not too little, but just right. Instead, I want to frame it as a question. Is our view of our enoughness right or not? Do we have the right view? That's the question. And our path for consideration this morning will trend this way. We're going to ask, when is enough too little? When is it too much? And when is it right? This is our big idea. We will find that "you are enough," as used by culture, doesn't aim high enough for Jesus. "You are enough," as used by our culture, does not aim high enough for Jesus. So number one, when is enough too little? As we consider the creed, "You are enough," the first thing that comes to my mind is that in order to measure enoughness, we need a ruler. We need a standard. We need something to measure our enoughness against. I can think of three possible choices. I can use myself as a standard. I can use the opinions and voices of other people. Or I can use God. Now, if you're new here this morning, you're just coming to check us out, the God that I'm referring to is the God of the Bible, Jesus Christ. So the question is, who's the reliable choice for a standard? You, other people, or Jesus? Now, you might object right up front here and say, "Gene, your engineer's brain has gone wild. You're overanalyzing something that's not meant to be overanalyzed," right? The phrase is used to make people feel better. Well, that may be how it's used, but I think we're a group of people that wants truth over platitudes. Now, what's a platitude? I found an amazing definition for a platitude. Platitude is a trite, meaningless, prosaic statement, and we have them. I'll just pray more. Don't worry, it'll all work out for good. Yeah, those are trite, meaningless, prosaic statements. Often used as a thought-terminating cliche. Thought-terminating. I want to say something to you aimed at quelling social, emotional, and cognitive unease. I'm going to tell you something to make you feel better, but don't think too much about it. That's a platitude. Platitudes, by this definition, are completely unhelpful. And so we want to be able to tell ourselves and tell other people truth over platitudes. Now, I spent a lot of time over the last few weeks reading about "you are enough." And there's no single definition out there for it. But the phrase is used of the best intentions, and I truly mean that. It's used with the best intentions, helping people who really do think too little of themselves. And the result of thinking too little of themselves is what many of us experience on a daily basis: fear, anxiety, depression, just general unhappiness. Now, I see the phrase used in one very broad sense, and then there's one very specific sense that we want to cover. First of all, "you are enough" tells people, don't measure your worth using other people as a standard. Don't measure your value as a human being using other people as a standard. That's a very broad definition that I kind of see everywhere. Now, there's also a very specific sense in which you are enough is used, and I don't want to gloss over it. Those who have experienced great trauma in their lives, trauma due to abuse of one sort or another, due to a loss, an accident, they begin to believe, because see, our brains were never created to process trauma. And so our brains go into this, make sense of it. And so we begin to start believing lies. Lies like, my trauma is what defines me. Because I've been traumatized, I have no value. And there's no healing from my trauma. Those are lies. And so you are enough is meant to convey the idea, don't measure your worth using trauma as a standard. And I wanted to cover that because I think that's one area that I hope here at Grace is something that we're free to talk about, but so oftentimes in Christian circles, it's not. And I want you to know that if you've been traumatized in any way this morning, especially by abuse, don't measure your worth using that trauma as a standard. Now, our culture has a voice that we are all too eager to believe. And that voice says that your value is based on your success, whether that's your career, your academic successes. It's based on your looks by some standard that advertising has created. Your worth is based on your perfect parenting, your youthful looks, the amount of money that you can put in the bank. Have any of you students, and I hope you haven't, but have any of you students ever heard been said to you, you need to be more like X? And it's often referring to another student maybe who has different academic achievements, different athletic achievements, or different personality traits. How about men? How many of us find ourselves wondering when we've arrived? I wonder that sometimes. Have I arrived? I don't even know what arrived means or what it looks like, but I wonder if I've gotten there because culture tells me I should arrive. I just don't know where I'm going. But seriously, though, that's something that we wonder deep down, whether that's in our career or where we've brought our family, a place of financial stability. Have I arrived yet? How about working moms? How does it make you feel when you've done a good job at work and you've come home and you've taken care of your family and all the hundreds of other activities you have to do, and you catch a minute to breathe and you open up Facebook and these are the pictures you're compared against? Right? Pictures of all these women went to the same hairstylist, right? And they're in homes that are perfectly manicured and they're just exuding joy and happiness. But see, these pictures tell you something. They tell you you're not enough if you don't feel and look like this. Right? All these examples are the world telling us you're not enough because you don't look, you don't say, you don't feel like this. And you know what? I took all these pictures, all these are authors of You Are Enough books. These are the pictures on their websites. Now, somebody in preaching team reminded me, dude, you don't have any guys up there. You're like picking on all the women. Well, I couldn't help it because virtually all the authors about You Are Enough books are women. And I think that speaks to something that women struggle with in our culture. All the voices that tell them they're not enough. So I'm not picking on you, I'm empathizing with you. Well, blogger Becca Martin agrees with this struggle about comparing ourselves to other people. She says comparing yourself to others sucks. It's mentally draining and it's frustrating. And it puts us at war with ourselves and it's time to stop. And I would agree with what she has to say. And in fact, the Bible agrees with Becca Martin. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, I think I put it up there wrong. Somebody can fact check me on that. My notes say 2 and that says 1. So somewhere in between the first and second cup of coffee, it was wrong, right? But the Apostle Paul here is talking to the church community, right? None of this should be happening in the church community, right? We should all feel really good about ourselves. We shouldn't compare ourselves to other people. And he says, no, even within the church community, you're a bunch of people that look different, you sound different, you come from different backgrounds and different stories and different walks of life. You're like one big body. So just because you're an eye doesn't mean you have no value because you're not a brain. Just because you're the big toe does not mean you have little value because you're not the elbow. I mean, it's so prevalent in the church, Paul had to get down and use like little toddler illustrations for us, right? Because we don't get this. Our value shouldn't be compared. We shouldn't create our value statement based on what we see in other people. Because other people are frankly fickle, and we're all unhelpful in this with each other. Remember, you are enough comes from the same culture that also tells you you're not enough. So which part of culture do we believe? Now, what the Bible and culture do agree on is that human beings, and hear this, Bible and culture agree, human beings are valuable because they are, not because of what they can do or what they have or what they look like. Human beings are valuable because they are, not because of some external comparison. And it is interesting how far culture will go to make this point. This comes from a group that provides peer counseling to those with post-traumatic stress, largely due to abuse of some sort. And this message that I'm going to read you from their website is not faith-based. This message actually permeates almost verbatim through many of the You Are Enough authors. Listen to this. Being good enough means you were made to be you, as you are, on purpose. There's been no mistake. You're the person you are on purpose. And you've been put in this place at this time on purpose. You belong here on this planet and have a place here whether you feel that way or not. Secular, non-Christian, non-faith-based sources are saying you're valuable because you were made to be. I find that quite intriguing. But what do they base that claim on? Can I believe that claim? What's it based on? It's based on nothing. It's based on themselves. I don't want that kind of claim based on me. I'm too fickle to handle it, right? And that's why Jesus says it's not enough for you to know you're valuable just because. That's not enough for me. Jesus wants us to know in Genesis 1 that the triune God got together in his perfect plan and said, let us make human beings in our image and in our likeness. You are so valuable as a human being because I, the God of heaven, have created you in my likeness. And then God saw, and God blessed them. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. David says that in Psalm 139 that we already read. I am fearfully and I am wonderfully made. And that is a truth that has meat and merit and a foundation because it rests in the authority of the God of heaven who made us. And who declares, I made you, you're special, you're loved, you're valuable. That's something to stand on. So don't think too little of yourselves. Because you have a value that's decided by a fickle culture. And it's not decided by your own whims and failings and struggles. It's decided by the God who created you. And he tells us that it's true. So number 2, when is enough too much? So if I don't need other people to affirm my created value and dignity, how do I begin to feel better? Because frankly, I'm a hot mess. I mean, if you would have seen me the last 2 weeks, I had this last 2 weeks, right as I'm trying to study for a sermon, my old long COVID brain fog just ran wild. And I haven't been able to think a straight thought in 2 weeks. I'm just a mess. And when it comes to taking care of myself, I'm even more of a mess. Just ask Robin, because she's the one that's often taking care of me. But seriously, think about our lives. How many people that get on social media admit they're a hot mess? We are. We struggle. We have anxiety. We have mental health issues. We struggle at work. We admit it. So how do I flourish in the way I want to? Well, we have legendary transformational hypnotherapist Marissa Peer to help us. Now, I'm not making fun of her. That's the label on this video that I'm going to show you. Legendary transformational hypnotherapist. And I am making fun of her a little bit, but I want you to, because I couldn't help myself, and that's my character. You can pray for me and Robin. I want you to listen carefully, though, to what she says. I want you to listen very carefully to somebody who is trying to help others but doesn't have God as a foundation.
Hi, I'm Marissa Peer, and I've been a therapist for a long time, but I realized very early on with all my clients and patients, they all had the same problem, which is they didn't ever think they're enough, whether they came in with a drug addiction, a shopping addiction, a food addiction, a hoarding addiction, they all went back to the same thing. I'm not enough. And some of my clients were movie stars and Olympic athletes, and others maybe were school teachers, but I'm not enough is a universal problem that we pick up very early in our life because we start to compare ourselves to other people. And parents and teachers do it too without meaning to. Why can't you be like your sister or your brother? So we start to buy into this belief, I'm not enough, and it is the biggest problem I see in the Western world. But there's good news. It's incredibly easy to fix I'm not enough. If you think you're not smart enough, attractive enough, interesting enough, intelligent enough, lovable enough, if you have issues with shopping, eating, hoarding, drinking, even binging out on Netflix to hide from the feeling of not being enough, I promise you, it is so easy to fix. And here's the best way to fix it. Write it on your mirror in lipstick or eyeliner or marker pen. Put it on your fridge in fridge magnets. Put it all over your house. And what I'd love you to do is write it, take a photograph of it, and hashtag that to Mindvalley. Join the I Am Enough movement, not just for you. You may have children or brothers or sisters or people you work with, and everyone in the world can benefit massively from knowing they are enough. When you know you're enough, you know what's so amazing? You give the whole world permission to also know that you're enough. When you think you're not enough, people pick up what you believe about you. You are what you believe. You make your beliefs, and then your beliefs make you. So if you make your belief, I'm enough, I promise you, I guarantee it will change your entire life. So please.
I won't make any further comment. Notice a couple things that she said. Human beings have a universal problem. Notice she said that? And the solution to a universal problem that has plagued mankind since the beginning. Legendary transformational hypnotherapist Marissa Peer has found the answer. And it's found in a tube of lipstick. Write it on the mirror. Write it on the window. because you are what you believe. Notice what she says, you make your beliefs, then your beliefs make you. Now, apart from that being circular reasoning, I don't know how it works. Now, Jesus agrees a little bit. The truth will set you free. But who makes the truth? Who makes the truth? If I make my own truth, does my own truth make me? Practically, we know that doesn't work. It's silly at best and unlovable to say at worst. It doesn't work. But what she does recognize is that human beings have a universal problem, and the solution is transformation. Universal problem, solution is transformation. Well, let's put this theory to the test. Evan Tarver is going to help us. Evan Tarver, by his own website, says he helps people find financial and time freedom so they can live their best lives. This is what he says. The idea that you are enough, therefore, means that you are equipped with everything you need and require to be successful at anything you want. If you believe that you're enough, you can confidently move in the direction of your goals and ultimate desires. So we have a belief problem, not an ability problem. I tried that one time, and it didn't work out well. When we were first married, I realized even early on that I needed to engage in some degree of long-term financial planning. That was the wise stewardship thing to do. But in my own American manliness, and our wives would say a Griner thing, I'm enough for that. I don't need some wacko to tell me, try to get their percentage to tell me what to do. I'm enough. I'll do it myself. Even though I knew nothing about long-term financial planning. Now, I'm really good with money. I'm really good with a budget. I can run a tight ship. But my first foray into long-term financial investment didn't go so well. I lost at worst, and at best, I came out even. And what I discovered is that I am not enough for financial planning. I needed a guy. I needed a financial planner who knew about investments and stocks and all these other things that I don't know anything about to come in and help me. Now, not everybody agrees with Evan. Most of the voices out there who are writing about you are enough do not agree with Evan that you just believe and you're good. Most would say you are enough does not mean that you're everything and that you don't need anybody else. It doesn't mean that you're flawless and that you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you don't need to change or be better. Everybody agrees we need transformation. Everybody agrees we need transformation. Melissa Wilkins, in her book Permission Granted, put it this way: you were enough before, you are enough now, and you will continue to be enough as you become more of who you were made to be. There's that transformation again, becoming more of who you were made to be. But the problem is, here's where one of the ways culture and the Bible diverge. Culture places all of this on me. I have to decide who I was made to be. I have to state my own beliefs. I am the one that has to produce my own transformation. And we're just not good at that. Writing from a Christian perspective, Alyssa Childers, in her book Live Your Truth and Other Lies, acknowledges that we're not cut out for this. You are enough is a message that enslaves people to the false idea that they're responsible to be the mastermind of their current circumstances and future realities. How many people here feel like you're the master of your current circumstances and your future realities? That's just not something that we would agree with. Even when you feel overwhelmed, it burdens them with the obligation of being the source of their own joy, contentment, and peace. See, when we use other people as a standard, we think too little of ourselves. When we use myself as a standard, I'm in danger of thinking too much of myself and putting all of this burden on me when I can't handle that. Am I really capable of my own transformation? Well, you might object and say, well, sure, people do it all the time, right? They engage in healthier living activities. They engage in more financial stewardship. They do all kinds of things all the time that change their lives, whether they're Christian or not. And that's very true. But I would suggest those are all temporary and fleeting and don't answer the eternal questions. See, transformation on that surface level does not aim high enough for Jesus. See, Jesus said the truth will set you free, but he also said, I am the truth that will set you free. Truth starts and ends with me. See, Jesus doesn't want us to think too much of ourselves, because in doing that, we're just spiraling down this rabbit hole of untruths. He says, I made you special. I am the source of truth. But don't lay all the responsibility of transformation on you when you can't handle it. See, if we think too much of ourselves, it's on us. And Jesus says, I don't want that responsibility to be on your shoulders. I want it to be on my shoulders. And that's where we come to enough is right. You know, it's very interesting when you study and read the self-help voices that are out there surrounding this creed, you are enough. They all have very similar stories, and it's very striking. When you go to their websites, go to the About Me sections, and you read down through the About Me sections, this is what you'll find. There was a time that I was unhappy or unfulfilled or something along those lines. I discovered this truth. This truth transformed me. And now I'm free from what I struggled with before. That sound quite interesting? If you're a Christian this morning, this should be sending up a bunch of flags. Should be going ding, 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 ding. So in our quest for enoughness, let's recap what we've learned. The Bible and culture both agree. We as human beings have value. We as human beings have a problem. We as human beings need to learn the truth. And we need the truth to transform us. Very interesting to me that secular culture and the Bible agree on these things. Very interesting. Here's where they diverge. Culture says this is all on you. It's all on you. Jesus says it's all on me. See, this doesn't aim high enough for Jesus to just let you alone to where we are. The entire message of the Bible is Jesus saying, I want to give you more than platitudes. Culture does that. False religions do that. We do that to ourselves in our own thinking. Platitudes are not helpful. I want to give you the truth. I want to give you a truth that's going to transform you in a meaningful, permanent, and eternal way. I want you to become exactly who I created you to be. And listen to this. I want you to flourish in ways that you can't imagine. That's not often a message we hear enough in Christianity, and I don't think the world hears enough about our Jesus. Our Jesus does not want us to follow a bunch of old rules just so that we can be miserable and not have fun. Jesus says, I want you to flourish in a way that you were made to flourish, and I want you to flourish in a way that you can't even imagine. Here's the truth of the Bible. And I want you to listen for these words in blue. This is the truth of the Bible. Jesus says, I created you to be like me, to live in perfect relationship with me. That's where your value is. I gave you everything you needed to flourish, to have a life without pain and without suffering. That's the life that you were meant to live. But see, human beings, you have a problem. You chose to do life without me. I gave you everything. I made you to be in relationship with me, and you chose to do it on your own. I call that choice sin. And your sin has given you a death sentence. And on the surface, you may not believe that, but look around, everybody dies. And Jesus says we die in this life and we'll die in the life to come as we experience the punishment for our sinful choices. In eternity, you'll bear the punishment for your sin. And that Jesus says there's not a single thing you can do about it. All this struggle, all this flailing around to heal and transform yourself is futile. But here's the truth. I love you enough to not leave you where you are. I love you enough to not leave you where you are. I dealt with your sin problem on the cross. I purchased the opportunity for you to be transformed in my own blood. I dealt with your sin problem. And the transformation that I offer as a result is full and complete and permanent and eternal, and it doesn't rest on you. You can give up the struggling. You can give up the striving. You can give up worrying about other people as a standard. You can give up worrying about yourself as the standard. I've set the standard. And when you come to me for forgiveness of those sins, the standard that I use is that you are perfect. See, I've changed the equation. You are enough isn't enough, but you are enough me is. We are enough in Jesus Christ, which means the burden of all this doesn't rest on me, rests on Jesus. That's the difference. That's where culture, Christianity diverge. Now, the Bible's message isn't that we've found this nice middle ground, this nice sweet spot now of our own enoughness. You know, the difference between thinking too little and thinking too much. See, we need to think rightly about ourselves and the God who made us, the God who's promised to be everything that we need. Here's how theologian A.T. Greiner, in his 2019 Facebook dissertation, put it. When you put it up on the web, it's going there forever. I've recently seen an increase in the positive thinking posts that say you are enough. And I'm here to tell you that simply isn't true. You are not enough. You never will be enough. But there's a God who is and will always be enough for you. There is a God who is and always will be enough for you. And do you know that that truth is buried within God's own personal name? The God of Christianity, the God of the Bible, is Yahweh. And when we go back to Exodus and we look at the place where God revealed his personal name, Yahweh, it translates, I am who I am for you. God, it's buried in God's very nature to be everything that we need. That's what we were designed for. To flourish and to thrive under his caring wings, so that all this isn't on ourselves. That's the beauty of the gospel. Now, as we conclude, there might be one final problem. You might say, Gene, this still all sounds like platitudes that Jesus is dishing out. Because I don't know about you, but I live in the real world. I live in a world where I have mental health struggles. And I'm there with you. There's a reason I'm on 2 antidepressants. I have mental health struggles. There's a reason I go to counseling once every other week and have done so for years. I have mental health struggles. But you know what? Going through those mental health struggles, it's not on me. I got a guy for that. It's like my financial planner. When the markets are going crazy and inflation, all this other kind of stuff, people often at work would say, are you concerned about your portfolio? Well, probably not, because I don't know what a portfolio is. I get these statements. I don't know what they mean. But I got a guy for that. Now, God is not there to be our servant and do financial planning for us, but the principles are the same. I worry about the markets. I worry that the things stir me up. But when it comes right down to it, I trust my guy. When life is stirred up, when we don't know what to do, when we have our mental health flare-ups, we got a guy. We got the God who made us and says, yeah, you're going to go through this for a while, but eternity's coming. And while you're going through it, I got this. And you know what? More than I got this, you don't even know how good it's going to be someday. Beloved, we're God's children now, but when we will be has not yet appeared. We don't even know what we're going to be yet. But we know that when he appears, we're going to be like him because we will see him as he is. That's the message of the gospel. So this morning, we can walk away. We have a choice. We can't change our circumstances. We can fight all we want. We can say that it's not right or it's not fair, what we're experiencing and struggling. We can do that. It doesn't get us anywhere. And we can choose to rely on myself, choose to rely on other people, or we can choose to rely on Jesus Christ, the God who made us, the God who purchased us, and the God who loves us. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we're